What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Koop'd Up podcast, a podcast that is slowly pulling into the end of 2021 and looking forward to the future. As always, folks, my name is Koopa, and usually I'm joined each week by a friend to talk about all things pop culture and everything nerdy in between. But we're going to take things a little bit easy this week. This is going to be our last show of the year. I'm not trying to do anything super crazy with the holidays and, the pandemic's starting to become a little bit more of an issue again, as it has been, for the last, almost 2 years. I figured we'll do a little, small-ish end of the year show with me mostly just giving my gratitude and thanks to you guys and just kind of, talk about things as we kind of pull into 2022 and what to expect from the show and from me in general. But we're first, without further ado, got to shout out the host network again. The Koop'd Up podcast is brought to you guys by the BLEAV podcast network, the number one podcasting network for professionals, from athletes who played for the teams to passionate experts on topics you want to hear. The BLEAV podcast network is the number one podcast network for professionals, featuring podcasts ranging from the wide world of sports, whether it be NHL, NFL, baseball, and even pop culture podcasts like myself and others on the 400 plus shows on the network, featuring the likes of Bill Polian, Bob Papa, a lot of your favorite sports personalities such as Adam Pac-Man Jones as well. So if you guys are into that, you can check out all of these shows at BLEAV.com. Check out the BLEAV podcast network at BLEAV Podcast across social media. And if you guys feeling so inclined to do so, you can check out my show at BLEAV.com/show/Koop'd-Up, where our entire library of podcasts is available there. And again, if you haven't already listened to last week's episode or downloaded last week's episode, where me, Riz, and Banjo going in depth on our spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home, which just broke the $1 billion threshold this past week, I believe. So big ups to Sony and everybody involved with that film, making all of the money that we all expected it to. So you guys can check all that out over on our main feed. And again, you guys can also check us out on all of your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you might find us, whatever your listening app of choices, go ahead and check us out and also download the show. But yeah, we're going to do a little bit of a smaller show this week. Again, it is the end of the year. Everybody's crazy with the holidays. Between myself running around this past month, as well as, the regular hustle and bustle of the holidays. And, I know with the pandemic being a bit, still always a prevalent issue, a lot of people I know around me are getting sick. And, it's one of those things where it's like, let's just kind of take it easy this week and sort of coast into the year 2022, as I am recording this podcast a little bit later in the week than I announced that I was going to. I am recording this on Thursday. This podcast is going to be going up on Friday. I do have a little bit more extra time this week because, a lot of my usual obligations are kind of, on their holiday hiatus. And yeah, listen, I hope you guys had a great Christmas. I had a really fun Christmas. Got Settlers of Catan and some slides from some family members. Celebrated the anniversary with my partner this past weekend, which was dope. Had a lot of fun with that. And just kind of looking forward to spending the New Year's at home, watching the ball drop as we get into 2022. And we slowly approach a year of our podcast being up. And that's something I really wanted to spend time talking about today, is that, I started this podcast this podcast came as an idea to me a long time ago. Podcasting is something I've always been super passionate about. I've been doing podcasts since 2018, dating back to the Gloves Off podcast. If you guys ever, followed me or listened to me over there, where we talked about Smash Brothers every week, with a rotating panel of people and everything kind of, more closely related to esports. And that was dope. And that's what really kind of sparked my interest and wanted to host my own show. As much as I enjoyed Smash and talking about everything, intricately with esports, I do have interests that fall outside of that, such as, like we've covered on the show, whether it be movies, anime, video games, all sorts of other aspects of pop culture that I'm really into. So this is an idea that I've had throughout the past year. I spent a lot of 2020 just kind of figuring out what direction I wanted to go with that, or where I wanted to, land this show eventually. And then, I got my PC and equipment all together. I got everything I needed and wanted. And, I settled on doing Koop'd Up. So on January 16th, it'll be 1 year since I started the show. And I got to say, this past year has been crazy. I usually am pretty hard on myself when it comes to, content and deadlines, and I'm constantly in a state of feeling like that I'm not doing enough work. But then I was kind of getting some numbers together, for the end of the year show, just to kind of get some stats together. And the biggest thing that I found is that between all of the Koop'd Ups and a handful of, Survivor specific podcasts that I was doing for a while with Shenanigans, we did 42 podcasts this year with 26 unique guests on them. And I had to pat myself on the back for that, because that is truly impressive, to be able to generate that much content with that many different people, inputting on it. It was awesome. So I want to take this time first and foremost to thank all 26 of my guests. Some of you repeat guests, some of you, one time onlys, but I would obviously love to have some of these people back, and I plan on having them back in 2022 for sure. I'm super duper excited to have had that many people, come on my show and, just want to chop it up with me. So if you've been a guest on my show this past year, truly thank you guys for entertaining me and, wanting to come on my platform. Because it's just a lot of fun to just kind of talk about stuff. Whether it's talking about Sonic stuff with Ange, and, dealing with her history of cosplay, which has been actually one of our more popular episodes. Shout out to Ange. She's awesome. Having Glentendo and Cam Lange come on a bunch this year, to talk about a variety of things. Cam and Glenn being two of my first guests ever, on my show, and, to have, multiple things to talk about with them, getting to talk to people like Sean and Vicky Kitty and Hazmat, whenever he has time to come on. The Marvel reviews with Banjo have been a lot of fun as well. So if you've been a guest in any capacity on the show, thank you. Really, it truly means a lot from the bottom of my heart. And yeah, just kind of thinking back to where we are from that first episode, to where I am at now, things are so drastically different. I remember one of the things I cringed the hardest about at that first episode, one episode and a movie, is that I didn't balance my audio properly, so you can only hear me out of one of your headphones. The intro's a little long, and I didn't really understand the value of sound balancing then, because, spoiler alert, when we started recording these shows, they were, I was recording them on Discord, and just recording the desktop audio and not editing anything, because I couldn't be bothered to edit because I suck. So that was a lot of fun, to just kind of do all that. And I made it work for about maybe God, I did that for a few of my episodes. I think for the first 20 or so episodes, they're just recorded through Discord, through OBS, with the audio being recorded directly from my desktop. And, eventually you get to a point where you want to start taking your craft a little bit more seriously. You want to start taking the effort to make things sound better and feel, more cohesive. And I'll never forget the episode that me and Cam recorded. Cam was, again, a pivotal part of a lot of these podcast episodes, where the audio for our Luca podcast was just so scuffed. That podcast was so rough. Discord is absolutely crapping itself. So we eventually got it to work. And that episode actually ended up turning out pretty good. So shout out to Cam again for being on the show multiple times. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So, and now looking at where we are now, I went, we now are been on the BLEAV podcast network for the last month, which has been awesome. BLEAV has been nothing but great, both as a hosting site and as a company to work for. They've provided me with so many resources and, avenues and people to talk to in regards to just bringing the most out of this show, which has been dope. So I'm again, I can't be more thankful for that and for them. And yeah, I'm just so excited for what 2022 is going to hold. I'm looking at a lot of the episodes that we covered. There's obviously a lot of movie reviews on here, a lot of MCU reviews, a lot of Marvel content in general. I think I covered almost all of the shows except for I don't think I did anything for What If. That wasn't really something on my plate, and I don't think I did a proper episode for Loki either. I don't really remember. But obviously the MCU absolutely crushing it all year with content. From the beginning of the year with WandaVision, all the way through Spider-Man this year, and that's actually going to be my first podcast of the year next year. Is me and one of my friends. We are going to be talking about just kind of talking about Marvel in general in 2021 and what to look for 2022, because there is a lull of Marvel content until May. So I'm going to have to find some other stuff to talk about until then, which is crazy because the MCU, like I mentioned, omnipresent all over my my channel. But there is plenty of other stuff that I do want to talk about. Again, when you do a pop culture podcast, there is so much room for you to work with here. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't even get to cover initially because I was so busy and there was so much other stuff happening around that time, like Squid Game. I didn't do any coverage on. I really wanted to do a podcast on Arcane as a non-League of Legends person because I think that show was a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed my time with that. At the time of recording this, the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett just dropped, and I watched it, and that's really dope. I would love to do some Star Wars coverage on the show just because Star Wars is one of my first hyper obsessions as a kid, and I really want to give that that medium the proper time to shine here. So I think when the Book of Boba Fett finishes up, we'll probably do an episode on that. I just watched Disney's Encanto, the newest musical film, with the music of Lin-Manuel Miranda. That movie was awesome. I would love to talk about that at some point on the show, too, just because I love musicals. Musicals are my first obsession. I just recently watched Tick, Tick, Boom, which was awesome with Andrew Garfield. He is phenomenal. I think he's definitely going to get an Oscar nod for that as we get into Oscar season. Probably going to be talking about, those films coming up. West Side Story is still something I'm going to go out and see as one of the first movies that I remember watching as a kid. Actually, my mom made me watch West Side Story with her. So I think I'm going to try to take her to see that movie with me because of how much it means to both of us. So look forward to stuff like that. I it's hard for me to kind of, not talk about the things that I am, hyper fixated on or the things that I really enjoy because, that's the type of content that I want to do. I want to talk about content that I like, but I also want to cater to the content that other people want to talk to me about. I have a few top fives planned that I really want to touch on. And I think the biggest thing for me, obviously, is just kind of like branching out into more, film content for sure, doing more film reviews, maybe taking some more episodes to kind of get back to the core of what the show was. Whereas, I sit down with a guest and we just kind of talk about shows we've been watching and binging and just kind of go from there. So I think we're going to get a lot more episodes like that going into season 2 of Koop'd Up. So you can expect a lot more of that, a lot more guests, obviously. And again, 42 podcasts over, the course of a year. Almost a podcast a week. Obviously, I am the sole man working on this operation. So, it was, there was a few weeks where there might've been a lull. I didn't really it was kind of hard for me to get content out every week, but I do plan on doing a better job of scheduling myself in 2022 where I do have content out every week and, things to focus on and look at. So, I'm really excited for that. I hope you guys are as excited for that as I am. So, again, thank you so much for everyone who's downloaded the show and shared it on social media. Obviously, that is huge in regards to me, getting more clicks on my show and more people to watch the show. There are some other avenues I obviously want to explore more of in 2022. One of them being actually more game review content. I, for the last 6 or so months, almost the last year, I have been a regular correspondent on the Glintendo podcast, which just wrapped up its run this past week. Shout outs to Glenn for a great 50 plus episode run on his show. Again, somebody else who, does all of his own graphic work and editing, and he's helped out a couple times on our show. And Glenn, whenever you listen to this, I know I've given you your roses already, but thank you again. I parroted a lot of what you do on your show over here, and you were really helpful. You you were really helpful, influence on me doing a lot of my own stuff here, on my own show. So thank you again for that. So, with the Glintendo podcast, going its own way, it leaves an avenue open for podcasts to talk about Nintendo stuff. So, I very much am looking forward to a bunch of games coming out next year for Nintendo. Pokemon Legends Arceus is coming out. The new Kirby game is coming out next year. Kirby and the Lost City, I believe, is what it's called. So there's a whole bunch of games coming out next year that I really want to talk about that I'm super excited about doing. So I'm definitely going to try to do, more gaming content in general, more esports content, talking about a lot of the other stuff that I do at events because, I am an esports commentator. I am one who travels very frequently. So, I do have a lot of time to, to travel around and a lot of insight to provide, on the world of esports. So, I'm definitely going to do a lot more coverage of the events that I'm going to this upcoming year. I am going to be pretty well traveled these next few months, pandemic, pending, obviously if things get too out of hand, then I might have to put a halt on things. But for the time being, I do have some events lined up that I'm very excited to go to. And something else that I really wanted to incorporate this year is more live streams into my fold. So I do have a Twitch stream where I stream variety Nintendo stuff over on my channel, but consistency has been a really hard thing for me over there. Trying to find time to stream while also finding time to, nurture my other relationships on top of, being a content creator with podcast deadlines to meet. It's been hard. So I'm definitely going to try to get Twitch stuff back in the fold in 2022. I do have some games planned that I want to play going into 2022. And I'm going to find a way to incorporate the podcast mediums into my live stream. So that way I do have something to stream and talk about. And I think I'm going to find some way to make that work where maybe once a week or once a month, we do like a companion show. If you've ever seen the John Campea show on YouTube, he's a film critic and reviewer. And, each week he does like a companion show where he kind of sits down with people. They just talk about stuff in general. So if you guys are into that sort of thing, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions on that front. Another thing I've been looking into is other fan services such as Patreon. I subscribe to a lot of Patreons for podcasting content. I've been kind of looking for ways to give more content to people who want to, who want it. Some of my favorite podcasts are all on Patreon. Some of my favorite content creators are on Patreon, like Blind Wave, Heroes Reforged, the Tweet Talks podcast. All those guys have Patreon content that they're working with. So, if you guys are interested in that sort of thing, let me know what sort of content you're looking for. I'm thinking maybe like extra episodes, behind the scenes stuff, early access to the show. That's all stuff that's kind of in the work right now. So I'm slowly workshopping that. So maybe we're looking at maybe like Q2 of the year. We might start incorporating that, into the actual, into the actual show. But, that's all, here and there. Again, there is obviously going to be Marvel content to talk about this year. Smash content, anime content. I'm definitely gonna do more anime stuff in 2022 for sure. I was gonna do a review episode on the new Cowboy Bebop show, but the show wasn't great. I didn't want to force myself to talk about something I didn't really enjoy, and the show got canned after one season anyway. So, I'll find some way to get more anime, onto the show in general, because that's a medium that I really enjoy, that I haven't really found a means to get it to work yet. And I got a couple of other things, planned that I really want you guys, to be in on and excited about. So I hope you guys are as excited as I am for 2022. Again, this is a pretty short episode. There isn't much else that I'm going to talk about outside of just stuff for the future. Because it's the end of the year, everybody's busy. There isn't a lot of stuff to touch on right now. But I do have some banger podcasts planned for January. So I really hope you guys are locked in and ready for that. Again, if you guys want to keep in touch with me, you can follow me on Twitter at KoopaNJ across platforms, whether it be Instagram, Twitter. I might actually get a TikTok in 2021. I think it's finally time that I scratch that, category off of my show, start putting show clips on there and using it as a means of advertisement. So I hope you guys are excited for that, because I'm very excited. Again, I know nothing about TikTok, so I'm definitely going to lean on my social media friends to help me out there. And if you guys are interested in following the show, again, we're at Koop'd Up Pod on Twitter. Check us out over there. I'm definitely going to make some more show social media going into 2022. And again, you can check us out on the BLEAV podcast network at BLEAV.com/shows/Koop'd-Up, where again, our entire library is up there, as well as on your favorite podcasting platforms, such as YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Speaking of the YouTube, I think I am going to try to find a way to incorporate video content, into our show next year. Maybe start live recording the video feed for the podcast and then editing that into a video of some sort. So we're gonna try. We're gonna see how that all pans out. But at some point, I'm gonna try to incorporate video, podcast content for sure, because I do think that is an avenue that is worth exploring and uploading to other sites. So yeah, that's about all I have for you guys right now. So again, if follow me on Twitter and social media to keep up with I'm going this next month. I'm going to be moving and hustling a bit in the beginning of January. I hope you guys are as stoked as I am for everything. I hope you guys have a safe and happy new year. Thank you again for your patronage. Once again, if you've listened to the show once, if you've been one of our avid listeners since day one, thank you. Truly, from the bottom of my heart. It really means the world to me. So I hope you guys have a wonderful time, a wonderful New Year's, and we will see you guys back in 2022. Have yourselves a wonderful evening, and take care, folks.